Welcome to the LRC video series on positioning. The topic of this module, implications of your position. Let's begin by a quick review of how we got here. First, there's a demand in the marketplace for the different aspects of your business model. Think about product variants, service differences, emphasizing different aspects of sales. That different demand really gives rise to segments. You've got different customer segments out in the marketplace. Your competitors, well, they emphasize different components of their business model, and you end up with positions. Your position relative to the competitor's position, relative to the segments that exist in the marketplace, really explain your market share, your demand, how you do. This position is going to say some customers and customer segments find your company and your offerings more appealing than others. So given that, what can you do? What are the implications? Well, there are four major things that you can do. Focus versus coverage. Focus on a limited number of segments or go after the entire market. Second, make design changes. Try to change your position. You can make execution changes. Try to execute on that design more effectively. Finally, you can make communication changes. You can communicate more effectively. Let's go through those in order. Beginning with focus versus coverage. Are you going to focus on a limited number of segments, even one, or are you going to try to serve all of the segments in the marketplace?
Yeah, Aldi, give us an example of maybe a B2B or a B2C example in that focus versus coverage.
Sure. A couple that come to mind immediately, you think of the automobile market. Tesla, a very limited offering. Electric vehicles, high fuel economy, emphasizing that. Environmental impact, lower. Versus a General Motors. They started with Alfred Sloan thinking a car for every person purpose, a car for every income and need.
Yeah.
They tried to cover the entire market. Hewlett-Packard in printers. They try to address every segment that's out there. That can be a great strategy if you're one of the firms that establish the market and you're growing as the market grows and you start recognizing additional segments as they crop up and creating products for it. What are the risks? Well, if you do that, you have to make a significant investment in all of those products, in production, in learning all the different execution schemes, and in communicating different messages to different markets. That's quite an investment. If you're in a market that's rapidly innovating, Clayton Christensen and the people that look at disruption would say disruption tends to be most successful with smaller, more agile companies. And you're not going to be as agile with that investment, with all those fixed costs.
Right.
So it opens you up to competitors coming in and biting away at segments on the fringes. Let's turn to design changes. Design changes mean I want to make a pretty significant change in my position. Significant means I'm going to change a pretty big aspect of my business model. I'm going to refocus a big part and look after another segment, either by making product changes, pricing changes, distribution changes. Now again, it has to be a pretty significant change. And it really means I'm leaving my existing customers and going somewhere else. I'm appealing to a new segment.
Yeah, so an example of that, if we look at a different industry, maybe
Sure.
look at retail. JCPenney recently, a really good example of that. Tell us
Sure.
a little bit about that example.
They were appealing their initial model was let's appeal to people that were promotion sensitive. They offered a lot of sales, a lot of store promotions. People came to expect that. That's what they wanted. That appealed to them. A new CEO came in and said, we want to go after people that are a little more upscale, a different target altogether, eliminated the promotions or reduced them significantly, and came up with new product offerings for the stores. really the sense abandoning the core market and moving closer to a more attractive, in his eyes, a more attractive segment.
And
What
was
happened?
what was the result?
Sales
of that?
went down considerably. I believe the market literature said sales went down by order of magnitude 20%. In retail, that's apocalyptic.
Right.
That's major. Now, the strategy only stayed in place for less than a year. It could have been successful. Things could have then swung up, and they could have been successful at addressing this new target. It just is a great example of how risky that strategy is.
Sure.
When you abandon your target market, your current market, and go after a new one, those people are going to feel betrayed, not cared for, not loved by your company, and they're going to look for alternatives.
Right. Yeah.
One final point about design changes. We saw that example, you heard that example with Penny. It's the reason why design changes are not undertaken in the marketplace very frequently. Usually it's a result of, we're in trouble. Our segment's going away, our segment's moving dramatically, we have stiff competition coming after us. We need to make a big change in a hurry to survive. Let's move to the next implication, the next way in which you can change. Execution changes. Far more common. It says your design is a great fit with a target segment of customers that you really find appealing. You're simply not executing on it. Customers don't associate your company with the correct position because you're not executing and delivering on what you're telling them to expect. It's a case of not walking the talk. For example, if your business model says, we're emphasizing consultative sales, and in a B2B marketplace, frequently that's a great position to be in. So we're emphasizing consultative sales. We're going to come in and help you figure out how to use this product successfully in your operation and get the most out of it. Then you better deliver. If you don't come in and provide that kind of assistance, you're not executing, ergo, you're not really occupying that position. We've seen that happen in the B2B market in chemicals. It's an execution issue. The design is fine. There's a nice, big, fat, fluffy segment that they can go after, but they're just not executing on it. The challenge is executing. That's a classic loyalty issue. You go after and look at the current target market and say, loyal, neutrals, vulnerables. Your neutrals and vulnerables frequently occur because you're not executing. So let's look at how to improve execution and migrate those customers.
Whereas with the design challenge, a pretty sizable segment of that vulnerable group are just bad fits.
Absolutely.
What they need, what they expect, what they prefer doesn't align with what you're built to deliver.
That's a great point, Matt, and it says that greater and greater execution, more investment in execution isn't going to migrate them at all.
Yeah.
Just a bad fit, and you've got to recognize that. That's
Right.
a great implication for loyalty programs.
Yeah.
The primary risk for execution is investing in change that doesn't have an impact. What we see is investment by organizations to improve customer service responsiveness or sales force call frequency when it's really not an issue, or it's not an issue that's critical to the customer base. So it's investing in the wrong thing or not communicating the change you've made. If you're really going to get the impact out of making this change in execution, and let's assume it's the right change, you're focusing on an area that's critical, you've corrected it, you've got to communicate that to the marketplace. You've got to tell them, this is what you should expect each and every time you do business with us, because this is what our metrics say. You'll realize the impact of that change a lot faster. Finally, communication. Communicating your position more effectively. Now this assumes you've got the right design to appeal to the segment you're going after, your target, and you're executing on that design. It's just that the market doesn't see you as being in that position. You need to communicate it more effectively. Communicate your position. Why is this an issue? Well, frequently, companies try to communicate too much. They may have 10 to 15 different communication messages out in the marketplace about different aspects of what they're doing instead of, this is who we are. These are the primary things that we do and the solutions we provide to our customer base. Focused communication is critical here.
Yeah, this is a great example. We see this. This is the most, I'd say with our clients, one of the most frustrating outcomes of research is it's a catch-22. These customers are demanding information, resources. Tell me what you do. Tell me why you exist for me personally.
Right.
And we're putting that message out in the market, but they're not reading it. It creates that frustration.
Right.
One of the pieces with communication is all about relevance. And it comes down to, do we really understand the needs of our customers? And are we communicating a message that conveys that relevance? That for this particular segment, we know exactly what you're looking for with high-speed internet, as an example. We're going to talk about this. The message that you're giving to that group should look a lot different from the message that's going out to the one-stop shoppers, as an example. So it's not only targeted messaging, it's relevant messaging.
Great point, Matt. The final point about communication changes, the primary risk, assuming everything is a communication issue. We have a lot of clients, it's not a design issue, we're perfect. It's not an execution issue, we're doing just great. It's all, they just don't understand us. They don't know where we truly are. And in reality, that's just not the case. We find over and over and over again that whereas we believe they simply don't understand us, they have a pretty good understanding of the position of the organization. Now, you do need to communicate more. Those challenges are going to come up when there are infrequent transactions. You've got to remind them and let them know. But again, it's primarily execution. That's your low-hanging fruit. In our next module, Matt's going to take these implications and apply them to the case that we've been going throughout this video series on positioning, to how to apply this information. Hope you join us.